going to cover setting up notifications that people might expect to be able to have for medicine cabinets in particular. If you're just looking for general notification setup, there's a video for that. There's also a video about setting up notification channels, and you're going to want to have at least one notification channel exist before you go to set up notifications for a medicine cabinet. So we will cover setting up a notification to occur when a cabinet is not opened when you were expecting it to, as well as then another notification if it does get opened at a period of time that you weren't expecting. And then we'll get into a more complex scenario where you're wanting to have multiple times a day where you get notified if it doesn't open at any one of those windows, and then how to get notified in the gaps in between each of those times. So that's what we'll be covering in this video. So first you need to go to the notification setup area, which is under the gear and notifications. So we've already got some notifications on this particular setup, but we're going to add a notification for, suppose you have somebody who needs to take medication before bed. And so what you're going to do is you're going to set up what's called an unless notification, a notification that gets sent out unless something happens. And so we're going to say, unless the medicine cabinet door becomes opened, and so you're going to want to know when's their normal time that they go to bed. Suppose they normally go to bed at 10. So we want it to have opened sometime before 10 p.m. and maybe as early as 8 would be a reasonable time for them to take their medication. So unless the medicine cabinet door opens sometime between this time for this entire suite, then send a notification to my phone immediately and repeat it every 5 minutes until that medicine cabinet door opens. And then send me an all clear saying that it finally did open. Now what that does is it will, at 10 p.m., it will send you a notification if the door hasn't been opened, the medicine cabinet door has not yet been opened since 8 o'clock that same day. And it will keep sending it to you every 5 minutes until somebody goes and opens that medicine cabinet door. And then when it does, you'll get a message at the end that says the medicine cabinet door has now been opened and that it's all clear. The situation has resolved itself. So that's the most common medicine cabinet notification that you might want to create. And maybe you want to know if they open the medicine cabinet door at any other time. So let's create that notification. When the medicine cabinet door becomes open, well, starting at 10 p.m. and going until 8 p.m. the next day, that entire kind of reverse window, you want to be able to know for any of the suites that you're working with. Send me a message to my phone immediately. Tell me that that door's open. And really, if it's still open, like every minute that it stays open, you want to know about it, I would think. And this one probably also, you would want an all clear, okay, it's finally closed message. So that's the way that you would set up that. Now you have the only way to avoid, oh, and that's down here. The only way to avoid getting a notification is for the medicine cabinet to never open except for that 2-hour window where you're expecting it to. And as long as it does open there, you won't get the first notification. And as long as it doesn't open any other time of day, then you know that the medicine cabinet is pretty much behaving exactly as you would expect. But so let's take this a step further, because if you have a nighttime medicine, there's also a pretty good likelihood that you have a noon medicine and a morning medicine that you need to take. So let's look at how you would add another medication. Because right now, if we just go in and add a notification saying, unless I open the medicine cabinet door, we'll say sometime between 6 and 8 a.m., then send me a message immediately. Keep telling me if I'm forgetting to, and send an all clear. So that's exactly the same basic thing as what we did for the evening time medication. I picked a time window and said, tell me about it. So those are the same, these two notifications, just a different time of day. The problem that we have here is that this notification from 10 p.m. to 8 p.m. the next day is going to trigger in the morning when they take their morning medication, because there's this time overlap. And the way that you fix that is to change this one and say the 10 p.m. goes only until 6 a.m. the next morning. So now it'll go from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then we shift back to the tell me if it opens mode from 10 to 6 the next morning. And then we shift back to tell me if it didn't for this next 2-hour window. And then we'll add one more to tie in the final in-between area. So when the cabinet door, this one will need to be a when instead of an unless. When it becomes open from, what did we say, 8 a.m. until 8 p.m., then send me that message. And keep telling me, because I want to know about that until it's resolved. Now we have two windows where they're expected to take their medication, and then the rest of the time is absorbed by two other notifications. Now the key here is the ones that are times when you want them to open it are unless style, unless something happens. Send me a notification unless they open it. And the two that fill in the rest of the time gap so that you know if they do open it, because that's strange, those are when notifications. And that's the key to that. And you can see how you could very easily add a noon notification, and you would break this one and go from 8 a.m. to noon, and you'd add another unless that goes from noon to, say, 1. And so you'd have to add two more notifications. You'd have to modify the one and add two more in order to have a third window of time when they have to do their notifications. So that covers pretty much anything that, or at least all the normal use cases for a medicine cabinet, even as it gets kind of involved when you have different times of day. I hope you found that helpful.